Dad Loves Sherry, The Boys Just Whine is the 9th episode of the 4th season of Frasier. This is directed by the wonderful James Burrows, and as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. It's definitely not my favourite episode, and that's because I find Sherry to be very annoying, and that is kind of the whole point of the episode. Well, the main point is about making the effort for other people, and I'll talk more about that when we get there, but in terms of Frasier and Niles' perspective, that's kind of the point, and I understand. It starts off, actually, with Ross paying for Niles' coffee in Cafe Nervosa, which is not something she would usually do. We find out, after a slightly long anecdote, that it's because her toenail fell off, and she was happy about it. So, definitely a different start to things. Niles then has an announcement. He's got an awards coming up at a banquet, and he wants Martin to be there, but he's worried about how Martin will behave. But that was the least of his worries. We then find out that Maureen is breaking up with Martin. This kind of feels like it came out of nowhere, because apart from the episode where they decided they wanted to date, we haven't really heard that much from Maureen, so that did feel a little bit out of the blue. But nevertheless, that's what's going to happen, and we then cut to Martin and Maureen going up the lift to Frasier's apartment, and we, the viewer, know that the dinner is repeating on Martin. It didn't sit down very well, so Maureen hasn't had the chance to tell Martin this, but he goes into the apartment, and Frasier assumes, because of the way Martin is acting, because the food is repeating on him, it's because Maureen has told him that she doesn't want to see him. So, of course, Frasier asks him to this effect, and tells him that he knows how he's feeling and it'll be fine, revealing to Martin that Maureen wants to break up with him. And Martin says, "This is great," which is not the reaction I was expecting. And then he says, "Wait till I tell Sherry." And of course, Frasier's response is, "Who is Sherry?" But we don't find out straight away, because there's a knock at the door. It's Maureen. She has come to tell Martin, and Martin pretends to take it badly, and then he ushers her out, and we meet Sherry in a little while. We then cut to a scene where Daphne, Niles and Frasier are all setting out the gifts. It's Martin's birthday, and it's a very happy scene. Martin's dressed very smartly, and then Sherry arrives. This is Sherry Dempsey, played by Marsha Mason, and she is a lot. She is full on. She is loud and irritating, and I do not like her personality. And that meant that whenever she was on screen, it was kind of annoying. And again, that is the point. That is how Frasier and Niles were feeling. So maybe as a viewer, I should be thankful that it's an immersive experience, but it meant that I didn't particularly like the scenes that she was in. We do have a great quote, though, at this point, where she says, "To me, humour is like medicine." And Niles says, as a side comment to Frasier, "I guess we're in the placebo group." I'll try that again without laughing. "I guess we're in the placebo group." I found it very funny, very, very amusing. And we then find out down at Cafe Nervosa that Sherry is going to be taking Daphne's ticket for the banquet, because Daphne's not able to go. And I feel like that was a little bit presumptuous for her to invite herself. Yes, it was Daphne's ticket, but if Daphne couldn't go, it's not then up to, I assume, Martin to then give that ticket to somebody else, because Niles gave it to Daphne. So I don't like that attitude there, that Sherry either invited herself or maybe Martin invited her to give her the benefit of the doubt. But either way, that was not his invitation to give out. And of course, Niles is panicking even more when I said earlier that Martin was not his biggest worry when it came to the banquet. Now he's very concerned about how Sherry will behave, and he tells Frasier he's going to confront Martin and say he doesn't feel comfortable with Sherry going. And again, Frasier puts his foot in it, because he thinks Niles has told Martin, and he hasn't. And this is where Martin finds out that neither Niles nor Frasier particularly care for Sherry. And we have quite an interesting discussion after this, actually, where Martin, I guess understandably, says, "Why can't you ever make the effort for somebody I like?" And then I think it was Frasier who turned around and said, "When did you ever make any of the women we were with feel welcome?" And he has a point, and he mentions Diane, which makes me very, very happy. And then Martin realizes, actually, yes, that is true. We're all as bad as each other, and they have a nice little moment, and they agree that they'll make the effort, and if they don't have anything nice to say, they won't say anything at all. And then Sherry comes over, and she's loud and irritating. And then we end the episode with Sherry playing banjo. We don't hear it, of course, because it's the end, the final episode, where we never hear any dialogue or any sounds apart from the music. But we do see Eddie sitting on a side table, which is the cutest thing ever. It's absolutely adorable. So that was quite fun. But in general, it's not my favourite episode, but I completely feel Niles and Frasier in this one. But at the same time, I do understand Martin's point that they should make an effort, just as he should have done, to at least make that person feel welcome. And the mention of Diane was certainly something I rather enjoyed. So, needless to say, Dad Loves Sherry, The Boys Just Whine is not my favourite episode of Frasier. I thought of the placebo group line again. There are some good moments in this, some that really made me laugh. Sherry is a lot, but it's still an okay episode. I liked it enough. I would never choose it if I am just randomly in the mood for a Frasier episode, but I wouldn't skip it, maybe. I don't know, actually. I'm not sure. I don't know if I'd skip it. I guess I'd have to be in a certain mood to watch it. But either way, it's not a bad episode, but Dad Loves Sherry, The Boys Just Whine is never going to be my favourite.